Thank you, Jens. It's wonderful to be back for our final Bach's Lunch concert of this very strange year. And as Jens has said, we're delighted that we're going to be continuing our collaboration between First Presbyterian and the Emory Chamber Music Society of Atlanta next season. And of course, are very optimistic that we'll be able to have you with us live, which will be so wonderful after this recorded and live streamed year. The next concert of the Emory Chamber Music Society will be on Saturday, April the 3rd, coming up in just a few days. We're going to be presenting a program called String Theory, which will feature Martinou's wonderful duo, the Madrigals for violin and viola, and Tchaikovsky's thrilling serenade of Souvenir of Florence for string sextet. The Vega Quartet will be joined by Paul Murphy, violist, and Roy Haran, cellist. That one will be live streamed from Emerson Concert Hall at Emory and can be viewed on the concerts season at Emory schedule, the virtual stage at the Schwartz Center. So we hope you'll tune in for that as well. Our program today is the first two sonatas by Johannes Brahms. He ended up publishing 3, but apparently wrote a great deal more that he destroyed because he didn't think they were good enough, something that was very common for Brahms to do. He apparently had many string quartets besides the 3 that he eventually published, and we can only imagine that wonderful music that was consigned to the fire because it wasn't deemed good enough by the composer. But this first sonata in G major has a wonderful and incredibly touching story behind it as well, as do many great works of art. This began life as a sonatina for Felix Schumann, who was the last child of 7 of Robert and Clara Schumann. And Felix was named after Felix Mendelssohn, and Brahms was his godson. And it began life as a sonatina for him because he had studied the violin. Wasn't super advanced or anything, so it was going to be a relatively small piece. But as he started this sonata, Felix died at a young age, in his 20s, I believe. And so the piece became a memorial to him. And you'll hear throughout references to various memorial feelings, the first being several songs of Brahms, the Rain Song in particular, Regenlieder, and the last movement takes its theme directly from that piece. And you probably never hear a better example of program music than the last movement, which has this beautiful running pattern in the piano that sounds like endless rain that will never end. And the sadness and a bit, it's not gloomy, but it's cloudy. It's beautiful and cloudy and recalls Felix's life beautifully. The first movement has one of the most glorious the last movement as well has one of the most glorious endings of any piece that I've ever heard. And you can hear Brahms crying out for Clara in his last statements. There's a 2-note theme that says her name, Clara, Clara, lovingly. And it's so beautifully presented that Clara herself said in a letter to Brahms that she would like, when she died, to be played out into the next life with this beautiful ending. The middle movement is a slow movement, and you'll hear some references to the horn trio that Brahms wrote when his mother died, so it's another piece of mourning. There's a bit of a funeral march in the middle as well, and some horn fifths throughout the piece that refer to that also. So a beautiful work. It's also, I have to throw in this, that I did a little sleuthing and found out that Felix Schumann was born about 10 months after the young and very handsome and very talented Johannes Brahms met Clara Schumann for the first time, and just as Robert Schumann was being committed to the psychiatric hospital. And if you look at pictures of Brahms at the same age as Felix Schumann when Felix died, they look like the same person. So I'm just throwing out there, not saying that anything might have happened. I'm just saying it would make a very good screenplay someday. But I hope you enjoy this performance with David Coucheron, wonderful violinist from the Atlanta Symphony, also teaches at Emory University now for us, and of this Sonata Number 1 in G major. That was Brahms's beautiful first sonata for violin and piano in G major. The ending is just so magical. It's a sigh, and I can't imagine a better expression in any way in music of solace and comfort and grief as well. Written in memory of Felix Schumann, the last child of Robert and Clara Schumann, and the godson of Johannes Brahms. We'll move ahead in Brahms's life about 10 years and close our program with the second sonata in A major. It's just as beautiful, but in a completely different way. It's very sunny and friendly, and in fact, it has a wonderful marking at the beginning of the movement, Allegro amabile, which is very rare. I only have seen that marking in a couple of other spots, and it means Allegro is fast or light and lively, but with friendship, with love and friendship. And this piece also has a wonderful story behind it as to its creation. When Brahms was a young man, about 20, and just starting out, he was already a completely formed pianist and composer as well, but he hadn't quite hit the big time in terms of his fame. But he met a violinist named Joseph Joachim, who only 2 years older than Brahms, but already was one of the most world-renowned violinists, or at least in Europe at that time. That was the musical world, the classical musical world. And they hit it off fabulously and became more than just friends. They became like close brothers. And Brahms wrote almost all of his violin pieces and quartets and trios with Joachim in mind. And in fact, Joachim was a composer himself, as most musicians were. They weren't just a composer or just a performer. Almost everybody did both at the time, with varying degrees of success. But Brahms would consult Joachim on his pieces, and you can actually see in the manuscript of the great violin concerto of Brahms, one of the great masterpieces of art ever created by a human, all these red markings by Joachim, giving him suggestions and ideas and ways to use the violin better. And Joachim even wrote the cadenza that's used to this day for that particular concerto. Well, they had a long, long friendship, but after 20 or so years, maybe even a little bit more, Joachim, who was apparently famously a little odd, wonderful and odd, as people often are, and he could be a little bit paranoid and a little bit aggressive, perhaps, and he was convinced that his wife was cheating on him after 20 years of happy marriage. And Brahms just did not believe this. He believed the wife. And he sided with her, and he wrote a letter to her saying, Joachim is he's being crazy like he always is. There's nothing there. I trust you completely. Well, the wife used this letter from Brahms in court in the divorce proceedings. And because of that letter, the judge ruled in her favor. And Joachim, understandably, was not very happy with this. I think there was probably a lot of alimony or whatever they called it at the time involved. And so he broke off all connection with Brahms over this. Well, you can imagine a lifetime of friendship, of incredible musical companionship beyond just what friends are in this way, lost to Brahms. I'm sure he was heartbroken. And this went on for several years. And after about 4 years, Brahms decided to try and finally heal this rift. And this beautiful sonata is one of the pieces that he wrote as sort of an apology, a way back into Joachim's good graces. And I think that's why he titled it Allegro amabile, to my dear friend, my loving friend, and why the piece has the spirit that it does of just great beauty, great partnership between the two instruments. And it worked. Joachim saw this piece. He, of course, had to play it. They came back together. Brahms also then wrote the great double concerto, a real rarity for violin and cello for Joachim shortly thereafter, as well as the great C major piano trio. There was kind of an outpouring of new music in honor of this renewed friendship. And they did indeed heal those wounds and become friends for the rest of their lives. So I am delighted to be playing this with my musical brother, David Coucheron. Thank you, David, such extraordinary artistry, and I hope you feel our friendship through this great music as well.